This is the Lean Builders Hoots on the Ground podcast with absolutely, positively no bullshito. Join us as we dig into exactly what lean construction is and how we can use these concepts and strategies in the field. This podcast will be different as we journey to job sites and mine the minds of lean builders, all in effort to pass forward building knowledge from those who have put their time in to learn a better way. Because that's just what lean builders do.
What's up, y'all? Adam Hoots here, the Lean Builder, Hoots on the Ground podcast with no bullshito. And I got my man, Mr. Sam Dixon, here with me today. Sam, say what's up to the people.
What's up? Welcome to the construction world. I'm looking forward to the Lean Builder podcast.
Amen. This one is super exciting for me because I have, in my mind, I've thought, man, Sam Dixon is the Lean Builder. Sam Dixon, I got to get him on here. His story is incredible. We met, probably a couple of years ago on the Lean Coffees, and you have been just like a regular attendee, really driving and leading the group. Super fired up to see where that group goes. But we are here today to learn a little bit more about you. So we'll just start off real simple. Tell us, who is Mr. Sam Dixon?
I'm just your average construction guy, really. I'll give you a little bit of background on me. I graduated Clemson in 1990 with my undergraduate degree in construction science and management. Paid off my student loan 9 years later and then started a master's degree in construction as well. So in 2005, I finished my master's and I said, what am I going to do with this master's degree? And my wife suggested, why don't you try teaching at Greenville Tech? So I did that, and I've been doing it regularly since 2005. I see it as a way to contribute to our wonderful industry, sharing what knowledge I have, trying to teach the younger generation some of the things I've experienced. And it's a fun thing for me, is being involved in the training and the education part of the business. It's about me. I'm 57 years old. My oldest son just graduated college from Clemson last year. He's a industrial engineer. And my youngest is in the Air Force down in Eglin Air Force Base down in Destin, Florida.
Man, you got to be proud of him.
Yeah, I am. So
I love that. Well, take us a little bit deeper. Like, what helped make you who you are? What helped shape you?
OCD.
Okay. I think a lot of us can be there.
Yeah. To some of the lean principles, the 5 S's and the lean principles of everything has its place and everything is in its place, goes back to when I was a kid. My father was a very meticulous person and was very strict to us as kids and said, if you take a tool out of the toolbox, when you finish, put it back. He had his spot where the toolbox was. It never moved, and we knew where to go get things like that. Just staying organized. My dad was always real big into, he never really believed in luck. He believed in proper preparation, and that gave him good results. He was in sales, so he oftentimes had to do presentations, and I remember him staying up into the wee hours of the night, practicing and rehearsing his presentation, going through slideshows back in the old slide projector days of what he was going to say on each slideshow, each slide, each pictures to his bosses and his coworkers, and rehearsing. I'm a firm believer in proper preparation and doing what you need to before it's time to. But that's an odd for this podcast is ad lib.
Yeah, I like it.
Prepared, so it's going to be a random speak. So
yeah, I like it.
What else about lean that I can apply to my father? But
what characteristics do you think he had other than the OCD? What else did he do that you're like, man, that seems very lean and or focused on flow?
Our focus in our lean coffee that we talk about so many times, we talk about relationships.
Yes.
My father was very big and very personable. And being in sales, he knew everybody. He never met a stranger. My mom always told me, I lost my father to cancer a long time ago, but my father's told me he never met a stranger. And everywhere he went, he ran into somebody he knew, even if it was in some bizarre places, out of state, almost sometimes out of country. It seems like he'd run into somebody he knew from somewhere. So he's very big in relationships, which I think is very critical to our business.
100%, yes, sir.
We have a lot of the trade workers in the job site, and I have to realize that even though I have my master's degree, I'm no better than them, no worse than them. They're doing a task that I'm not capable of doing. And I have to respect that, and I do respect that, and utilize them for their skill sets and what they do, and know that they're doing a very important task. So relationship building is very big for me, and for my father, I would say as well too.
I love that because a lot of people misappropriate when we start talking about lean. They always say that pool planning stuff, right? Those sticky notes all over the wall. But I think a lot of times as an industry, we've missed the people side of it, and how important that is from a relationship. And you're right, we do talk about it a lot in lean coffees, but it's a whole other thing to actually act upon it. What can you give us an example of you specifically and how you respect people on a project site?
When I walk around, I visit as a project manager. I visit the job sites once or twice a week to see how progress is going, so that I can come back and do my reports, my schedule updates, and things like that. I'm not physically involved in getting the work done with my hands, so I do my best to walk around and introduce myself to the drywall finishers, the painters, the electricians, the craft workers, the guys that are actually there with their tool belts on doing the work. I try to ask them questions, what their background is, what their family is, do they have kids, just a little bit to show that I'm a person and I'm interested in what they do and that I appreciate.
Wait, you're a person? You're not just some fancy shoes coming?
No, absolutely not. Absolutely not. No. But I try to treat those folks with respect. And in my classroom at Greenville Tech, when I teach, I tell the students, I said, one of the soft skills that they don't teach very much in school is communication skills. On any given day, I'm talking to building inspectors, permit reviewers, state officials, county officials, an owner, clients, engineers, the craft workers. So I have to be able to relate to all those people and treat them with respect.
Quite a diverse group.
Yes, and I have to be able to speak to them at their level, whatever that might be. So, and what their work is, I have to understand. So, another thing that I like to talk about is Stephen Covey's habits, 7 habits of highly effective people.
Right.
One of those is seek first to understand, which means listen, ask questions, understand what the person's telling you, try to repeat it back into their words. So I have to ask questions. I know a little bit about a lot of things. I'm not an expert on
You're a GC.
Yeah. And I'm learning something new every day. So every day when I run into a situation I don't understand, I've never experienced before, the best thing to do is ask questions. There's a guy I've been watching on TikTok videos and social media named Jordan Peterson. He's a psychologist.
Yeah. Jordan.
I love watching his little things, but one of the things he talked about is just listening and understanding people's perspective. That goes a long way in establishing a relationship of trust and respect.
Yeah, which is what it's all about. I love me some Jordan B. Peterson, despite he might be a little bit controversial to some.
Yeah.
Good is what I say to that. I think the no bullshito approach is straight like him to a T.
Yeah.
And you touched on something. We're talking about respect for people and how we value human beings and how we show up. And there's something called the OODA loop, which is observe, orient, decide, and then act. Right? So we're not coming into a conversation and just, no, we're going to come in and we're going to kind of understand what everything's happening, orient ourselves, and then we're going to decide and act upon that decision. It's this, seek, what does it say? Seek first to understand and then to be understood.
Be understood, yes.
And so I love that book. But the other thing you touched on, which is a huge lean principle, is you said, I'm still learning. What things is Sam Dixon still learning?
One thing is I just purchased your book.
Nice. Yeah.
I'm about halfway through with it right now.
That's so cool.
We purchased 2 copies here for the office so that we can share it around. We're going to send one up to the headquarters and let them share it. So I'm reading that and I'm learning some new terminology and some new aspects. The lean principles, I'm not trained in it. I think the principles are kind of in my blood. And I enjoyed learning more about it. Being in the education as a part-time person, being in the education sector, I have to keep up with what's going on and learning new things. One of the things I will tell you I don't like to learn is new technology, new software. It seems like every day there's a new, you got to learn how to do this now. Oh, really? Another username and password. So that gets kind of frustrating and annoying, but the technology, you have to keep up with it because it's not going away. But just the constant learning, HVAC systems, electrical systems, plumbing systems. Every county, every city does their permit process different. So you have to read through their websites, talk to those people and say, okay, what plans do I need to submit? When do I pay for it? All these things so that when you go to do the task, it happens flawlessly and seamlessly. You learn that flow and you prepare for it.
That's awesome, man. You plugged the book and I didn't even have to poke or pry
Right.
or anything. That's so cool. Thank you. For
Absolutely. Now we saw where it came out, so I'm getting it.
I'm curious. So, as you're reading through, and granted you're halfway through, but as you're reading through, are there any terms you're like, oh, that makes sense, but I just never called it that?
Any of the terms, as formal terms,
Yeah.
what you're going to have to correct me on the pronunciation. Is it
Kaizen or Kanban?
Kanban? That's it.
Kanban. Okay.
Yeah. So that was a new term for me. I understand the principle, but I didn't know the word.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Love it. And so, I mean, you are like, you're the ideal person in my mind when it comes to that book, as far as like the ideal.
Because I'm an old dog.
No, partly, but the other part is, yeah, you're an old dog, but you're also a builder who's been doing this for 30, 40 years. You obviously focus on flow. You care about people. You invest and build trust. You're teaching the next generation. Like, you are doing all of these things that a lean builder does. That's just what a lean builder does. And so you're just not calling it that. And so from almost from the first lean coffee when we were talking about it, you're trying to uncover what is this lean thing. And wait a minute, I could see, I spotted you from across the room where it's like these connections are happening. And it's okay that we don't call it lean, or we don't call it pool planning, or we don't call it what Kanban. Like, what we're doing, we're visualizing in a place when it's needed. We're not just overproducing and causing waste everywhere. And so these are ways, like you said, it's just ingrained in your blood. And I could see that all day long. And I think there are so many people in the construction industry that either over the years have learned from flow, how to focus on flow, how to get things moving, how to clear roadblocks. And that's all the things we're talking about from a lean perspective, but they're just not calling it that. And that's okay. Like, I want the whole world to know that we want to encourage that, because there's probably some things in the old dog tricks that aren't turned out yet, that don't have these new school terms that people have been doing. Part of the frustration to me with this lean thing is that it's very mystical. Like, hey, are you doing lean construction? You're like, oh, what's lean construction? Do you value people? Instead of asking, are you doing lean construction, we should be asking these questions. Are you valuing people? Do you know what's flowing in your business? What is your flow unit? How do you remove roadblocks? How do you visualize your work? All of these questions are how we define lean. Did you get better today than you were yesterday?
Yeah.
Like, that's the ultimate.
Yeah.
And so, I guess, can you speak on that for a second? If there's somebody out there who's like, man, this lean construction, oh my goodness, like it's all this whole new world, all this other stuff that I have to do. What is lean construction in your world?
Lean to me is really, if you're preparing and you're planning and you're organizing, things should take care of themselves almost. So that goes back to my father, proper preparation. It's not luck. I'm not counting on luck for a construction project to happen. If I do my job, and my job is to purchase, procure, review shop drawings, and get the tools and the information to the guys out in the field so they can build it. It drives me crazy to have subcontractors call to a job site, pull to a job site, and say, hey, we need you to start painting. And the job site's not ready for them to be productive. Yes, they can paint, but I want their entire crew to be productive and put together a hard day's work of what they expect to do, because that's their profitability.
They can paint, but are they painting?
Or is it accomplishing the end game of the paint? If they have to go back and paint it a second time or a third time because we mess it up, then we call them in too early. Flow. Yes, exactly. Flow. So if that's the terminology for it, yes, flow. I want to make sure that the folks are there when it's ready for them to be there. My job is to get them lined up a few weeks in advance. Tell the superintendent, say, hey, here's your painter. He's on standby for you to call him and say exactly what day he gets there. That way the superintendent has the buy-in as to when folks are getting out there. I don't like to push the people out to the job site until the superintendent says, hey, I'm ready for them. Can you call them, tell them? So we work very close with the folks in the field to make things happen. So that's the flow part of it. Preparation is doing everything on the front end, getting those POs and subcontracts written so that the submittals and things like that are done well in advance, rather than, hey, has the paint color been approved and the painter's out there waiting for the paint to get out there? And there again, that's unorganized and not properly prepared. From the trust perspective, or people, it's all about they're again just talking to them, asking them what they need for their job to make it work. What do you need from me? Not what. Here's what I want you to do.
Yes.
What do you need from me for your work to be productive? So many times in our business too, when we run into a roadblock or an issue that requires rework or a error in the plans, so many times people want to point fingers and say, "What? How did we get here? What happened?" There's nothing you can do about it. You are where you are. You got to forget what happened this morning and yesterday and say, "Okay, here's where we are. How do we move forward?" Don't put blame on people. Don't fuss at anybody. You do that after you've resolved the problem.
If there's time.
Yeah. You go back and look and figure out what the root cause was, the 5 whys. You keep digging on why, but you don't do that while you're trying to solve the problem. Then you figure that out later. One of the I was very fortunate that the first job I had out of construction, out of Clemson, back in 1990, was working for York Construction, and the 3 executives there, Bonner York, Tom Broggan, and Mac Woods, gave me a very good moral compass for business. My parents taught me a good issue of right from wrong, but then the first job out of school, they gave me a good moral compass on what was right and wrong in business work. And I'm very fortunate for that, and I'm very appreciative of that. So I try to do the right things with people, with our customers, subcontractors, and treat people with respect, treat people with fair business practices. They do extra work, pay them for it, especially if I've asked them to do it. If there's not going to be money changing hands, then what can we do for each other to compensate for that in some other way? How can I help you do something differently? Next project, whatever it may be, but you take care of folks that are taking care of you.
Yeah. How did they instill that moral compass? What things did they do where you were like, okay, I get it?
I saw this little short video yesterday on the Family Business Institute, and it was 7 characteristics of credible people, and one of them was doing what you say you're going to do, and then finishing it. And I remember I'm not an athlete as far as basketball. I played baseball, not very good at it. But golf is my sport. But I played football in 8th grade,
Okay.
and I absolutely hated it. Football is not my sport, right? I was little and small compared to most of the kids who were playing, and I got beat up pretty good. But about halfway through the season, I wanted to quit. My dad said, "No, absolutely not. You started the season, you're going to finish it. You told the coach you were going to play, you're going to finish the season. I have to play next season, but you're going to finish the season that you started." So that's a characteristic that I think he instilled in me. And he said, if you make up mistakes, use the KISS principle, the 3 F's.
What's the 3 F's? Sorry.
Foul up, fix it, forget about it.
I like that.
The adjective of foul up is, can be a different word, but
another F.
If you make a mistake, own up to it and forget about it. Fix it, own up to it, and move on. Get past it.
That applies to the sports world too. I'm going to teach my son the 3 F's.
Yeah.
In baseball there, he needs that. Awesome. So I want to get more into who you are. We've talked a lot about kind of other folks. What things are you passionate about? What gets you fired up?
That's a good one. I really live a quiet life. I don't like to travel very much. I like to do things with my family. I'm passionate about that. Golf is my one sport. I love to play pretty much weekly. And I think golf is an analogy because it's on yourself, because you have to follow the rules. It's an individual sport and when you make a mistake or you got a penalty, you have to call it on yourself. Keep an honest scorecard that way. I think that's a right, wrong, moral compass sport versus the umpire made a mistake or the referees made a mistake. That's why we lost. And I think I messed up. It's my mistake. It's all on you. But it's all on me.
Internal
reflections.
Yeah.
I enjoy reading.
What's the last book you read?
I can't remember the author, but it's called Natchez Bernie.
Okay.
And it's a 600 and something page book.
I really like reading.
Yeah, it's a fiction novel, but I love John Grisham type stories.
Okay.
And this one is about the racial murders back in the 60s with John F. Kennedy and Martin Luther King and things like that. And how it happened way back then and now they're starting to solve some of those old murders, and those things. Those type stories interest me.
Interesting.
Even though it's fictional, it's an interesting story based on some real events. And love history. That's
What kind of things do you do with your family?
we usually take a quiet vacation when we go. We just love to hang out.
Okay.
We just purchased a new home.
Congrats.
Back around Christmas time, I did some renovations to it. My wife's always wanted a pool. She found a house that has a pool.
Nice.
So this year,
that's a lot of work.
This year, yeah, it's not that bad. It hasn't been that bad. We've had to do some repair work to it, but once we figured out how to operate it, it takes care of itself. It's a saltwater pool. So this year we're probably going to do a staycation and hang around home instead of traveling somewhere. We've got the pool that we've got, and we'll go play putt at Frankie's Fun Park and go see movies and do some things that we would do on a vacation without traveling and have our own pool to do it. So that kind of thing, just hang out with those. We're pretty quiet. We're not travelers. We're not partiers or anything like that. So
my speed to a T. I'm coming over. We're going swimming, man.
Absolutely. You're welcome anytime.
And so let's transition a little bit into Omega. Let's transition a little bit into Omega. Okay. Is it Alpha Omega building?
I think there is a company out there called Alpha Omega. We are simply Omega Construction.
Okay. So tell me a little bit about that transition, because you're recent to the company. In fact, the company's recent to the area.
Correct.
Tell me a bit about that transition.
Okay. Well, Omega Construction is headquartered in Winston-Salem. Okay. There's a large group of folks that moved over in 2011 from John S. Clark Construction out of Mount Airy, North Carolina. They purchased Omega and have developed it since 2011 to what it is now. Those folks are good Christian folks, good right and wrong, good moral principle company that we felt, Don Warren and I felt comfortable making a transition to. Don came over and joined them in October. And I talked to him and said, if you need an operations guy, I'm interested. He said, when can you start? Nice. So I joined him, I think the first week of November 7th, something like that. We've started up a new office here. They have an office. They're headquartered in Winston. They have an office in Savannah. And they wanted to be in this market for the manufacturing sector as well. And that's what we're focused on. My position here is project executive / senior project manager. As we grow, I will be in charge of the operations side of the project management, getting the projects executed once we get them.
Gotcha. Yeah. So what's been the most challenging thing for you, sir?
The most challenging is being a startup and finding the work. The company has made a very large financial investment in setting up this office, hiring a staff ready to work, and sales guys, Don, and a couple of salesmen are out there chasing the work. And we've got a lot of irons in the fire. We're just waiting. We're trying to get those first few projects under contract and get going. So it's the startup process.
Yeah.
Patience. Being patient.
Being a new name in an old school town. But they did it right, because they came and you and Don both have been here in the Greenville market for a long time.
Yeah, and we've hired a full staff. We've got 7 of us here now, and everybody's local. Everybody moved over from other companies here local, so it's not, hey, we're moving in from Atlanta or Winston-Salem or somewhere. And people coming into this community trying to get situated. It's folks that have been here for 10 plus years. Everybody on staff, and so we should have those relationships with all the subs and suppliers and vendors and architects, so that people say, I remember you from where you previously were. So yeah, look forward to working with you again. New place. So just being patient. It'll happen.
Belief, faith. Yes, absolutely.
Yes.
Tell me this. I ask this question a lot on the podcast. I'm curious, what is a word or phrase that just drives you nuts?
Drives me nuts. You're gonna have to edit out the silence here. I have to think about this one.
I always tell people I'm gonna edit it, especially silence.
I don't know. It's probably some of the buzzwords. I use a lot of buzzwords myself, but some of the buzzwords like in reality. I don't mean to offend you, but I'm gonna offend you.
That is not just
thinking outside the box. The bottom line, those cliche clauses are like, oh really? Yeah, but we use them every day.
Yeah. Are they ever applicable? Yeah.
Sometimes. I think that as a society, we use the word "I hate" too much. Try not to say that. I dislike things, but I don't necessarily hate them. I think I saw Jordan Peterson one time. He said, no, and it was another talk host. He said the opposite of love is not hate; it's indifference.
Wow. Can you explain that one a little bit deeper for me? I'm slow sometimes.
Love is a very strong emotion. Hate is a very strong emotion. The opposite of a very strong emotion is having no emotion, which is the difference.
Interesting. Yeah.
And I think he's a talk show host. I'm drawing Dennis Prager. He does talk show host on middle of the day on one of the top radio stations. He does one of his shows during the week is relationships, husband wife type thing. And he talks about that the opposite of love is not hate; it's indifference.
So is the opposite of hate indifference as well, then?
Yes,
Because it's strong to know.
Yeah, I don't care is the opposite of I love or hate.
Man, you've got my brain turning on that.
Jordan Peterson says that too.
Yeah.
Similar, he says in relationships, husband wife. He says if you go to therapy, I can pick it up when I have a husband wife. If I'm talking to them. He says if one of them, if a spouse rolls their eyes, that's a sign of contempt for their spouse. I have to be very careful about that too. Long time relationship. I've been married 30 years. And we get in our ruts and ups and downs, but yeah, you have to work on it.
Man, we keep coming back to this kind of relationship thread. Why are relationships so important to you?
Because we rely on them every day. I want the people that work on my projects to want to work with me, and I want to work with them again. I don't like having to go find a new painter every job because the last one I made mad or the last one doesn't like me for some reason. Bothers me personally. And if somebody has a problem with me, I want to repair that relationship. And I did a job interview a long time ago, and the person asked me if I could get along with a difficult boss. I said, I don't have to be their friend, but I can respect their position. I think everything we do in the world is a relationship. I like the car salesman. When I bought my new car, I want to enjoy working with that person. I don't want to dislike. I don't want it to be a bad experience. Yes, I think everything we do in the world is based on relationships, trust, and respect. Don't have to necessarily like everybody. Don't have to be best friends. But there's business relationships that you want people to trust you, and I want to trust the folks.
How do you best get to that point in a relationship of trust and respect?
You got to earn it. Trust is not given. I think we start. I personally start from a point of I'm going to give you the benefit of the doubt. And I'm going to rely on you, and I'm going to take you at your word, unless you prove me different. And if you do what you're supposed to do, and you do what you tell me you're going to do, then you've earned that trust from me. So I have to do the same thing back. If I tell you I'm going to do something, I'm going to issue you a letter of intent, a notice of subcontract, whatever I tell you I'm going to do, I need to do it so that people can trust me. And then the relationship and friendship over time comes from doing that multiple times.
So it sounds like you keep this mental clock of say to do ratio. How often do you do what you say what you do?
Yeah, I hope it's 100% of the time. It's probably not. It's probably more than 95%. But if I can't deliver on something that I say I'm going to do, and I try to teach this to my students and to the young folks I'm working with here training, is if you say you're going to do something by a certain day, then do it. If you can't get it done for some reason, let the person you know that you told you were going to get something done by Tuesday or next week, let them know why, what the reason is, and when you expect to get it done as a result of the impact. The material's on back order. It's expected to ship next week. As soon as I get it in, the day I get it in, I will call you and let you know our schedule. Communicate. Talk. Let people know. If you catch people off guard, that's where you start losing the trust.
If you start losing somebody's trust and you can visually recognize that, what do you do to repair that?
If I know it's something I've done wrong, there again, back to the 3S. If I've messed something up, I need to fix it. And then hopefully we can forget about it and move on forward to the next thing. There again, own up to my mistakes, own up to my issues. I can only control what I can do, right? I can't control what somebody else does. I can only do what I can do. And if I do what I'm supposed to do, deliver on what I say I'm going to do, then I'm doing the best that I can.
What powerful. That's something I've been learning a lot lately, is that I can't control other people. There's a lot in in this world that we just cannot control. We can influence it at best, but control, it's not possible.
Yeah.
That's something that kind of where I am in life right now, I've been struggling with a lot. Any advice for me?
We just have to accept the fact. Um, so many times in our business, in the construction world too, is our clients expect us to be able to pull rabbits out of the hat when things don't work out. Back order, electrical gear right
Those
now.
rabbits are on back orders.
Electrical gear, for example, right now, some of it's running 50 weeks. It takes you a year to get some electrical gear, and clients want their projects in 6 months, 8 months. Not going to happen,
Math
sir.
doesn't work.
I can't make it happen. Can't you pay extra for it? No, you can't. I'm sorry. You know, there again, but we're telling them the truth, right? I will monitor it daily. I will keep track of it. If there's any way to accelerate it, I will do that. But to be honest with you, right now, the best I'm being told is 50 weeks to get electrical gear. Here's what that's going to do to your schedule, sir.
Yeah, that's
If somebody's telling you different, they're telling you smoke. And
wrong. Bullshit-o.
Bullshit-o, exactly right.
Yes, total bullshit. You can't. That math just doesn't add up. I want to keep the same thing, like you, relationships. What do you think other people will think of Sam Dixon, or what do you want them to think?
I'm going to be honest with you. I try not to worry about what other people think of me.
I like that.
That's using the term keeping up with the Joneses and what people think of me. I want people to think of me as an honest person, integrity. I try not to be too self-righteous about anything. Know how to do things better than anybody else. I have good methods that work for me. I will impart those ways to you as a youngster, and you take pieces and parts and build it your own way, and then go from there and develop it your own way. It has to be your own method, principles. So I try to learn from a lot of different perspectives and put that into my life, my business practices. But I want people to think that I'm an honest person, I'm integrity, and hopefully, people go back to my father. People warmed up to my father. They responded to him very well. He had a nice smile, pleasant smile, a good firm handshake, and people enjoyed talking to him. And I hope people, if there's anything I want people to think of me, is that respectable person.
Yeah. How do you balance a self-righteous, but yet still being proud of your accomplishments and humble enough to be able to speak about it? Like, to me, there's always been this struggle of, I err on the side of let's not talk about Adam, because let's let my actions talk for me. And I feel that very much with you as well. Like, how do you balance that, being humble yet still being proud about what you?
The first thing that I think to realize is I learn from everybody, and I try to learn from things like the lean principles, the Stephen Covey. They're not my ideas. I take pieces and parts and make them work for me, but they're not my ideas.
That's what lean builders do.
It's not me. It's not my idea. It's a principle that I've learned and adapted to work for me, and I've manipulated it, modified it, adjusted it to make it work for me. But it's not my idea. So I have to credit to somebody else.
But at some point,
that's where since it's not me, I can't be self-righteous about it.
What about when it is you? When it is you that created that thing, or that amazing piece of work that just works, right? The job site flows, and that's your schedule. Like, how do you giving credit to somebody else there too?
I might put together the plan, but somebody else is actually executing.
When is the last
time? The field guys are the ones who build that. I put together, when you work with a client, they said, we need this room delivered first on our building so that we can start bringing equipment. So we're going to work in a clockwise direction around the building. I might help organize that. I facilitate it. It's not me executing it by myself. There's hundreds of people that work on a construction project, and I'm just one person. So I got to give 99.9% of the credit to other folks.
Okay, so let's zoom in on that 0.1%. When's the last time you owned your impact, or you celebrated something?
I celebrate it on every job that I do, because that's part of the reason I'm in construction. Is I enjoy when I'm riding down the interstate and I ride by a building that I participated in construction. I didn't say I built it because I participated in it. And that is, I like seeing that building seeing the end results. I like talking to clients and saying, I worked on a project for a similar project for your type of construction project back in early 90s. And this is what I remember from that experience and talking through using the experience I had to transfer on. But I take pride in being involved in a project and knowing it's there. So
how do you celebrate Sam Dixon? Let me just ask the question.
I know that I do. I probably do. I just don't know about it.
You should. You're a pretty special guy. You're worth celebrating.
No, I'm not special. I'm just an average human being.
For the sake of the podcast, I'm going to let it slide, but I disagree with that statement.
I don't know. I try my best to give credit where the credit's due. When a project's done, I try to reward the folks that were involved in my particular team, my coworkers for our company. Nice dinner, nice lunch, reward, whatever bonuses, whatever the method can be that I can reward them is what I try to do. It's not about.
I feel you. I really do. And this is something that I personally struggle with. And Jennifer Lacey and Jesse Hernandez have been working on me big time to be able to. In fact, we have a call every now and again where we just celebrate each other, right? And hey, this is what I accomplished, or I changed this person's mentality today, and those to me have been very rewarding and also very uncomfortable. Again, when I'm the focus of the celebration, and when you got to be careful and Jordan Peterson says this, you got to be careful who you celebrate with, right? Because a lot of people will try and take it and make it back about them versus celebrating you. And so I would love for next time something goes right, or like you're like, man, I did a good job. I want you to call me and celebrate that with me, please. Can I hold you to that?
I'll try my best, yes.
Try is not a word.
I will.
I love it. Heck yeah, we're going to celebrate Sam like he should be.
Yeah.
Because I think that's important, because you do a lot of good for the industry, the community, young people, and that's worth a celebration for sure. So if you're out there, Lean Builder Nation, let's celebrate Mr. Sam right now. Let's share this, celebrate a comment, whatever it is. Give Mr. Sam Dixon some love because he deserves it.
Yeah.
Amen.
Sure.
Heck yeah. Yes, you do.
The biggest reward for me is at the end of a construction project that client puts up this thing. I'm not looking for anything more than that.
No, but you're going to get it.
Thank you, and I look forward to working with you on our next project. Yeah,
Amen.
Amen. About that.
So we're nearing the end. I got a couple more questions for you. I want to hear about your most memorable project, or a memory on a job site, or just talk to me a little bit about when you're in the field, something that sticks out to you in your past.
Probably the most memorable, because it was my first big project that I was involved in, was the Magna stamping plant down in Piedmont, Colorado, 25 in the toll road. I was 3.5 years out of school. I'd just been moved over from estimating and project manager. So I was assistant project manager to it. It was a massive concrete job. And one of the things that my boss taught me there, backwoods, back at York Construction, we were working 6 and 7 days a week on the job site, pouring concrete. December, in a massive excavation. And backwoods told me, he said, you don't have to stay long. He goes, but if your guys are working on the weekends, got crews working on the weekends, it goes a long way for you to stop by. Now, stop by, say, hey, how are things going?
Bring them a biscuit.
Bring them a biscuit, absolutely. But let them know that you're part of their team, right? Not that they're out there working and you're all playing golf on Saturday while they're busting their humps, getting the job done for you. So that went a long way with me. That was a very rewarding project. Time, schedule, and budget-wise, quality and safety. Got a little plaque that they gave out I can't remember the number of man hours, but there was so many man hours of safe work on that job, and that plaque sitting on my desk.
Still have it.
Still now, from 1993. Awesome. Working for a client. Architect issued us a new set of drawings, and I worked up the change order for the drawings for some items that got added to it. And this was when email was first getting real popular, around turn of the century, 2000 or so. And I just sent the email with the change order request to the client, and copied the architect on it. And the client called me up and just chewed me out. And he said, don't ever send me a change order communication like that without talking to me first. He said, pick up the phone and call me.
What was that about?
It was communication. Yeah. It was poor communication on my part.
So that was the owner's preference then?
he just didn't. It caught him off guard. He was a young man. He wasn't much older than me, but he preferred for bad news to be delivered in person because it was going to cost him money, and he wanted to be able to talk it through rather than read it through. And I respected that. So I teach to my students and young folks: you have delivered bad news, deliver it in person, and deliver it quickly. Get it over with.
It's so hard to do.
I know it is,
especially as a young person.
but it's not me. All right, the news is not me. It's not about me. It's not me. It's not my problem. It's not. I'm not the cause of the problem. I have to explain what the situation is. There's a change in the drawings. It costs money. Here's why. There may be a way we can get out of it. I don't know. We have to talk it through, rather than just present the number to the client. He might have said why, what. He wanted to ask questions, and I didn't give him that opportunity. So we bust at me, and I learned a lot from that.
I bet you did. Quick too.
Yeah.
So I wanted to shout out a few people. You mentioned your father. You mentioned Mac Woods.
Mac Woods, Bonner York, and Tom Brogdon. They were the three executives of York Construction.
Who else has shaped Sam Dixon's construction career? Thinking back, are there field folks, superintendents, executives? Who else comes to mind? Like styles that you've taken and kind of made sure?
Those are the most influential. They got me started.
Yeah.
Everybody I've worked with and from and for taught me something. A couple older superintendents, I can't remember the names, but those guys have taught me a lot about field crews. Tommy Garrett was another of the gentleman. He was superintendent on the Magna job a long time.
Nice. I like it.
I still like to think that even though I might not have seen folks in 20 or 30 years, that if I picked up the phone and called them and said, "Hey, this is Sam. Yeah, how are you doing?" Yeah, I hope that they would remember me, and I remember. I try to keep touch base.
Is there anyone we could put that to test with right now? Is there anybody that comes like you? But just call them.
Yeah,
let's do it.
Steve Neese. He is a civil engineer with ECS engineering. I don't know if I've got his name.
Oh man, that would be freaking. That would be so cool. Just call him and say, "How are you?"
I actually shot him an email this morning because he conducted a webinar Wednesday.
Okay.
And that was the first time I've seen him probably in 2002.
Oh wow.
And it was just on screen.
So cool.
See if he might not. He teaches school at Virginia Tech now. I don't know if I've got his number.
That's all right. That would have been too good to be true.
Well, I knew it would.
I don't know about the integrity of calling him on a live show. That's probably not the best thing in the world.
It's recorded and can be edited.
Yeah, it could be. That's for sure. So we're coming down to the end of it, and I would love for you to just go on, have your own mic drop moment. What is the message that you want to send to the construction industry?
The construction industry is tough. We're expected to deliver projects. There's 5 pillars as I like to use them. These are not my ideas. I've just incorporated them into my principle, but we've always been taught 3, which is quality, schedule, and budget. We've added safety over the years, and now I've added communication to me personally, that it's my job as a project manager to put those 5 plans into practice for every project and how I'm going to communicate it. With supply chain issues that we've had, the schedules have become tougher and tougher. The biggest thing to me is to communicate to a client realistic expectations of why their price is what it is, when the schedule is going to be done, what it's going to be done. From a construction standpoint, quality, people think of quality, a lot of times they think of what the expense of the project is, what the level of finishes are. But I disagree with that and say from a construction standpoint, the quality is the craftsmanship, the fit and finish. You can do inexpensive materials, but you can put them together and they look very nice. So our job is to make sure we pay attention to the fit and finish, deliver a project that's well built, quality constructed, and that we've treated it just like it's our own house, our own personal projects that we want to look like as though we would have it for our own house. I'm not going to accept it as myself, as my own work. I'm not going to ask the client to accept it. So.
That's just what lean builders do, baby. Good job. Sam, I appreciate having you on, man.
Yes, sir. Thank you.
You are next level, and I'm certainly looking forward to learning more with you.
Appreciate it. Enjoyed it.